My name is CJ Malcolm. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the chief of EMS and Gunnison Paramedics. And this is how I improved, or think I improved, and you'll find out why I say think, uh, cost recovery for Gunnison Health Paramedics. Who wants to be a millionaire? Okay. So I was inspired by Chief Wingate to put up my picture, and I cleaned this up real quick. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, this is cool. So all you need in this life is ignorance and confidence, and then success is sure. Is that if I feel like I know nothing? That's Chief CJ Malcolm. Actually, it's not. It's Mark Twain, I think.
That's the most cool headshot I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I think my daughter took that. Yeah. Okay. So just quick demographics, who we are. We're an all hazards department. We do swift water, quite a bit of that. Backcountry, side country response, that's our life. We were voted best looking paramedics by a major Dallas donor this last year. I know that probably comes as a disappointment to some of you folks, but that's what she told me at our gala. We run 1,600 calls. We got 3 rigs out 24/7 and a captain and a fly color. We run about 350 IFTs, so one a day, and our IFTs are about 5 to 12 hours long. Some extend 24 hours because we make our providers stay the night if they're in the front range. And our 911 average time is about an hour long. So pretty lengthy time out in the field. So the problem defined. So you're going to see some of these cheesy headlines here. I actually did this as a DMAIC process. I don't know if you are aware of the Lean Six Sigma, define, measure, assess. I can't remember what I is, control. But anyways, the problem statement for me was Gunnison Valley Health Paramedics recovers about 28% of our CMS reimbursements, much like many of you as well. And as a matter of fact, last 2 years we're down to about 22 to 24%. And we have this rural disadvantage. Everyone is under this, but it's a particular disadvantage for us in Gunnison. This 35-mile rule, everyone knows what that is, right? Does anyone not know what the 35-mile rule is, out of curiosity? I'll talk about it. Anyways, this puts us in the ambulance fee schedule, despite the fact we have 4,000 square miles district. On top of that, how many in here get taxes? Yeah, not me. I don't get taxes. I get Dallas donors commenting about how good looking I'm paramedics are, which works well. That pays a lot. But we're a non-tax base. And so it's really hard to keep our system afloat. So fee schedule, all of you know what this is. It sucks. This is the Gunnison 4112, that's us. I'm pretty sure when we just keep going down the line, the number's the same. It's between $200 and $600 is what we get paid by CMS. It's a total joke. The gray here is of course helicopter, and then here's the critical care, which forget about it. They're never paying you over $600. Very, very rare when they make a mistake. The fee schedule is brutal. And here's my actual payments right here: 365, 471, 931. Medicare Advantage, of course, 360, 500. We get paid about $500 for CMS, right? So my total billing, and this is from 2022. I'm a little behind on data. There's a reason for that, but this is the most recent I could get. We bill Medicare about 1.1 million, and they make up about 42% of our payer mix. What do they make up for you folks?
14.
14? Yeah, that's one reason I went after what I'm going to tell you. Commercial 27%. How's that for you guys? What is your commercial? Where are you from?
Eagle County.
Oh yeah, poor you. Yeah.
We're coming to work.
Said no one ever comes in. So we got a lot. And out of our 1.1 million, they gave us 300 grand. So we're paying about 900,000 out of 2.58 million bill. So rough, right?
So that's Springfield.
They're 75% men, yeah, we should be talking. Yeah, thanks, Sherilyn. Show me up again during our presentation. Okay, basic industry math. We're a weekly $5 million program. We run 1,000 global calls, $3,500 a call. That's what we have to bring in to stay alive. I think what you guys carried like 2 years ago was like 3,000 a call, somewhere in there for your whole program, you know? It's about that, right? So we're 3,500 a call. More expensive. Sean, what are you? Dare I ask? Yeah.
300.
7,000 a call.
I'm all for the reason you're on the fee schedule.
I'll be talking about that. Well, cost per call. Everyone else out there, it's beautiful world. You know, when you have economies of scale, it's much lower, right? The Springs thought they were between 550 and 750, but for us in these rural districts, we don't have that volume. So my collections is $950. I'm making about $950 a call. I don't even know if that's good. I think that's decent for the industry, but there's a big gap there. I got 1.6 million in contractuals. Any questions so far? So here's the simple truth. I was pissed off. I came from the federal government. I was a ranger, a federale, working for the Park Service, and I ran their search and rescue and EMS program at the Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon's busy. We have 7 million people come through here. They're like their own EMS hotbed in the middle of nowhere. So I knew nothing about this. When I came to Gunnison 10 years ago, I was like, what the hell? Where's the money? Why are the feds sticking it to locals to pay for the cost? What many think is a public service. Because everyone in Gunnison, when we call 911, expects us to come. But the fact of the matter is we're not public, we're not essential, but they still, when they call me from the top of Mount Princeton or whatever, they're like, are you coming? It's like, well, yeah, we're coming. So here's the litmus test. Who in the public expects EMS to come when 911 is called in this nation? Look, what is the answer? Everyone. And is there ever an acceptable time that we're not coming? Pretty rare. Pretty rare. So that $3,500, can I bring that cost down? Could we not do Swiftwater? Yeah, I could save 50 grand, maybe 100 grand a year tops. Could I nickel and dime on equipment and slow down my monitor replacement schedule like Austin has? Probably by a year or two, I could defer costs, but we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm still going to be way high in that cost per call. There's no way that nickel and diming is going to save us. So our cornerstone problem in 2024, my CMS recovery rate went down to 24%. I have 1 million in unrecovered charges because of this beautiful 35-mile rule. And you don't know this, it's cost for, we have to pay for the state of readiness. We run 1,600 calls, but only bill for 1,000. What do we do about the 600 calls? What do we do about them? So here's the root cause. My problem with Sean. It's right there. And I call this the formula of doom. If there's another service, here's Gunnison Valley Health, within 35 miles, aka Sean and his gang, Crescent View Fire Department, I'm automatically in the fee schedule. This has got to be like 90% services. Even the super rural ones out in Lincoln County have the same problem. There's another system next door. It's just the way it was. Now I looked up, where did this 35-mile BS come from? Does anyone know? I think where it came from is, remember Strom Thurmond? And here's an old school senator. I think this guy looked up that back in like 1822, you could ride your horse from one town to the other, and it was about 35 miles a day. And this is where they came up with this nonsense. So the reality is we have a 4,000 square mile district. I mean, we're basically the distance from the Springs to Denver. That's what our district covers. It's huge. It's over 100 miles from end to end. And we are sprawled all over the place. So here's Crested Butte. Their district is about, that. And then Gunnison, that's Montrose, that's Salida. It's big. And that 35 miles shafts us, and it's defined as like station, your primary station to station. And for years I was asking Sean, we schemed, what if I switched my station to Elk Marina, the Park Service? I used to be an old Park Service guy. I wonder if I could beat this thing. We just couldn't figure this 35-mile rule thing out. So what did we do? I'll just back up to it for a second. I called Sean up, and I always call this poor guy up over the years, like, Sean, what does CMS advocacy look like? Truly. And there's a big grin on his face like that. Good luck, kid. I mean, I know nothing about nothing. But this is breaking us. And what's happening is we're just taxing our constituents to pay for this shortfall unless you have economies of scale. It's a major issue. And so Sean, I don't know, I think it's because I bought him breakfast, because I'd ask him this every 6 months, and for years he never gave me an answer. But then I bought him some bacon at our local Greasy Spoon. He said, hey, why don't you call this guy Gary Wingrove? Is he the AAA president? Who's Gary? I don't know.
He's
Anyways,
just an old school man about town from the clinic who did government relations and everything else.
well, he kicked me to a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy named Tommy Barnhart, who was the CEO of a critical access hospital many, many years ago, and ended up being the president and chairman of many national level rural health organizations. And he ended up in Colorado. And he is now a senior advisor for the not Colorado Rural Health Authority, but one of these major rural health organizations. And Tommy said, interesting, you should ask. I have been looking into this problem for my entire career, trying to figure out a way around the 35-mile rule. And it just so happens I like to read the Federal Register on my Sundays. Like, here. What the heck is the Federal Register? Well, it's this thing that these government organizations publish their findings and different, upcoming changes in legislation. And he said they just created a change in the code of federal regulations, and it says, as such, we stated that we believe that our proposed change to allow for payment based on 101% of the reasonable cost of the CAW, that's a critical access hospital, or the CAW-owned operated entity furnishing ambulance services in a situation where there's another provider or supplier of ambulance services located within 35 miles. No, thank you, Crested Fire. No disrespect either, sir. Of the CAW that is not legally authorized to transport individuals either to or from the CAW would improve access to care. So this is how fickle language, statutory regulations and language could be. They changed one word in this sentence in 2019, and it's the article or. Because what this used to say is that if there was a service located within 35-mile drive of the CAW that is not legally authorized to transport individuals to and from the CAW. So we can't make it not legal for entities to come to us. That doesn't make any sense. And when I say us, that's Gunnison Valley Hospital that's located in the Gunnison region. We can't do that. Preston Butte comes to us. Obviously, we run to that hospital. Hinsdale County comes to the hospital. Chaffee Delta comes in there for mental health transfers occasionally. Well, they changed it or, and that is a key change, and I'll tell you why that is. So, what were my goals? I want to increase CMS reimbursement. I want to take money from the feds before I take it from my locals, if I can. Never give the feds a discount. Is it sustainable for rural EMS? I don't really know, but I would love to find some sustainability for some of us. And then can we create some state and national awareness? Only 3 other organizations in the United States had done this the year before. This is brand new. No one's done this. And this is kind of how I felt. Who knows what this is? Remember that? I mean, that's how I feel with my own organization sometimes. Probably Austin with the county. And definitely us against CMS or anything that some of you folks, Mr. Montes has been talking about. So, what did we do? Sean and I had a lot of meetings with my CEO, with stakeholders, with the county attorney, with county commissioners for months. We talked about this and finally said, you know what? We're gonna do something cool. We're gonna create a resolution amending Gunnison County ambulance licensing regulations to create an ambulance service area. And this was really, I would say, mostly Caffrey's genius. Mesa County had something similar to this, as well as a couple of other counties, but they didn't use it like this. So we created an ambulance service area that's assigned by the board to the county commissioners to ambulance transport agencies. And we had created at that time a Gunnison Valley Health Paramedics Ambulance Service Area. And it says GBHEMS shall be the only transport agency authorized to furnish ambulance services from any hospitals located within Gunnison Valley Health Paramedics Ambulance Service Area. From. The law used to say to and from. Now it says to or from. Well, we took advantage of the or part and just in the from part. We're the only ones who do IFTs in the county. So all this says is GBHEMS has the first rights of refusal to take an IFT. That's basically all it says. And it's legal, which also means I can go for cost-based reimbursement. I can submit a cost report and get 101% of our costs, not this 24% BS that we've been getting, sinking us by $1 million a year. In a community like mine, $1 million is a lot. So we made this really nifty map. And this is the ambulance service area. It has more functions than just our billing. It actually provides legal protection. There's another iteration of this. But we're the only legally authorized entity to transport from our hospital, eliminating that 35-mile problem that I face. So what did we do? We wrote a letter to Novitas. Novitas services our CMS, third-party CMS. They probably service you folks too. We said, hey, pay attention, change the law. We want cost plus billing. Why? Because that's what it says in the Federal Register. Well, guess what CMS came back with? Yeah, you're right. We're approving your request for cost-based reimbursement for ambulance services consistent with 42 CFR. All you got to do is check condition code B2 on form 1040 OB04, whatever. So the number of the day is B and the number of the day is 2. If you're the biller, checking that box for us. So what has that done for us? This is kind of the hard part. This was back in July of 2023 when they approved us. So I took 18 months before and after, just so you would see what could happen to you. So the 18 months before we successfully got CMS to grant us cost plus, so we're off of the fee schedule. We're billing about 1.6 million. Remember that number? And that was 22%. We're collecting 368 grand. Well, for the last 18 months, we're billing a little more. Our volume's gone up. It's getting more expensive. Still collecting crap. The reason why is you submit your cost report it's either semi-annually or annually. They will reimburse you for that amount. So remember this? The 3.5 million, 3,500 a call, and collections is 900. We collect 950,000 of that. The cash is king. And Mike, is that his name? So rumor has it, and that's the way it works when you're hospital based. And this is how I'm going to end the talk on being hospital based. I might do it on time, Jim. Still going to forget it. I have not been able to confirm this for 1.5 to 2 years as the chief of EMS in my system. And this is one of the more frustrating aspects of being health system based. Who in here has worked for a health system based program?
Sure.
Hospital based.
Sure.
So you'll know what I'm talking about here. Well, rumor has it that this is 2 days before my CFO left 8 months ago, that we collected $350,000 out of one of those checks for the first 6 months. So that upped my collections, if you calculate it over a year, times two, to 1.7 million. That's a good bump for my system. Instead of making $950 a call, we're making $1,700 a call. That's another good bump. I'm getting closer to closing that gap before I go to the taxpayer and say, we have to create a health service district. There's just no way around this, but we've done everything we can to maximize revenue. We're doing everything we can. So let's just talk about this. Is the answer to nest rural EMS under the hospital? There's so many options here. Pretty much everyone in here fits in this model, right? So I'm hospital-based, health system-based, and there are pitfalls when you're a hospital health system-based. Whittier understands what I mean when I say hospital mission profile, the EMS mission profile. What do you think I mean by that? Who worked for a hospital? Are hospital and EMS the same? No. No, when I first started, I was nested under the CNO, and I wanted to get us puffy jackets, because I don't know if you knew this, but Gunnison gets pretty damn cold. And the response was, if your crew gets puffy jackets, why wouldn't the nurses get puffy jackets? It's like, well, because they don't stand on Monarch Pass, and it's -34. Well, it's like this. So there's always a bit of a disconnect for those that have worked for health systems. They view their lens, and there's nothing wrong with it, it's just something that needs to be understood. Their lens is a health-centric lens. When I was starting our Swiftwater team, you're buying these cool Mustang, like the little CO2 cartridge PFDs, because we have several major bodies of water in Gunnison, and you could be downstream safety, upstream safety, you could be a rescue swimmer for us, whatever it is. We needed some good equipment. Supply chain didn't want to buy that. They sent me this. I took this picture directly off of the email that he sent me before I did this PowerPoint for you guys. He said, that's $180, CJ. This is $11. Why don't you use that for Swiftwater? That is a huge disconnect that you will have to find ways to navigate. Recently, it's been a pump issue. We just got Epic in our hospital, which is a great thing. And we have Alaris pumps, and we use pumps every single day. They're key, but UC Health programs our health systems pumps now to the emergency department and medical surgical floor standards of UC Health. My ketamine drips are wrong, my norepinephrine drips are wrong, all the concentrations are wrong, they're hospital centric. I brought that as a safety issue to our Just culture. At the hospital, I said, hey guys, we're gonna have to use standard drip rate in the Alaris pumps. We have these things called boundaries, so you can't mess up your drip rates. It's a safety feature. And they said, well, you just use a standard safety drip, just use a standard drip rate. You don't have to calculate it every time. I'm like, that's not the purpose of a pump. Can you change it? No, we can't change it. You have to use what MedSurg uses in UC Health. So that's my point. There can be conflicts that you need to anticipate when you work for a health system. Low accountability for revenue cycle. I've got 6 CFOs in 10 years, not uncommon. The life cycle of CFO in a hospital is about 2 years. Long would be 5 years. And revenue cycle has imploded many times over. So when I go to get denial reports, when I go to put numbers together, when I get aggressive about revenue, it's very, very challenging to chase down these numbers to bring the best, not only to the health system, but to the community, because I'm a numbers guy, and it's incredibly frustrating. EMS have different schedules, different pay structure, different retirement. We're different sick in the head than a health system. And trying to explain that can be very challenging. Hospital SOPs versus our SOPs. There's crossover, there's no doubt about that, but you will be forced to do all of the hospital training that nurses will need to go through. There's very little value added to a paramedic going through some of this health stream training. Very little value added. You got to suck it up and do it. Mission to creed. I'm the chief, I've got 45 staff under me. I also am the executive chair of our dispatch. And the hospital says, hey, guess what? You're gonna be the emergency manager, EM, for the health system for our 500 employees in our 12 satellite facilities. That's a full-time job, on top of having a staff of 45 and running all myself. I ran a cardiac arrest 2 weeks ago. Mission creep with health systems is very, very, very real. Is it impossible? For sure not. No, it is possible to have a positive relationship with the health system, but boundaries must be set. It was so bad in 2020, I wrote this thing called a realignment plan for our EMS in the hospital. And I created our own, I call it a hedgehog statement. I stole it out of Good Grade, but it's a vision statement, mission statement. I discussed our mission profile. I had to educate everybody in the community, primarily the hospital. And I had to teach them this. I don't know how well you can see that, but this is your typical hospital model. Here's outpatient services. This is Department X. This is PT. This is EMS. I just operate in the bubble. What they don't understand is that we have community members outside of those walls we are responsible for. I'm at public county meetings, I'm working with city managers, I'm working with other entities, I'm working with our neighboring districts, I'm on boards around the state. And so I had to teach them that here's the hospital, here's EMS, and here's the community. And we need to operate in this nexus. Competing in ambulance with an MRI is a very real thing. How do you maneuver that? So is it impossible? No. But my suggestion would be you have to prepare with a good strategic plan exactly what your function and role is if you're nesting under a health system. So here's my organization. Here's the chief. This is a whole nother organization that Sean and I run, Gunnison Regional Dispatch Center. And here's the bottleneck, the CEO. It used to be I reported to the CNO, which I said is the more common way. I over time advocated to go direct to the CEO. This has helped a lot. But the problem is that can be a major bottleneck, depending on what that CNO's background is, what his values are. Does he know EMS is? Trying to re-educate this individual when these guys go every couple of years, and so this is a big issue. And I've noticed over the years, sitting on boards, working with a board that is invested in your mission profile, working with a board that is interested and wants to be there, wants to help you with your finances, wants to work through your capital replacement schedule process. That has been a much more a process filled with joy and more efficient than dealing with a bottle of a person. One person that can hamper the entire response matrix of a 4,000 square mile district. Fortunately, I worked really hard at that relationship and it's going well for us. But there's still a lot of problems. I can't get an effective cost report. I can't figure out some of the raw numbers to really maximize my contribution to the system. So at the end of the day, my final recommendations, I've sat here over 2 days and I've heard, we had a amazing story from Apex Paramedics. It's a giant private organization. We've heard fire department commissioners talk, county government. Everyone's got that little formula of success, and not one formula fits. That's what I sat and learned over these couple of days. This wouldn't make any sense for half of you. Some of you right now are thinking like, is that the model we should go under? So my final recommendation is it comes down to your stakeholders, your mission profile, your tax-based impairments. That's a huge contingent in this. The geography comes down to it. Community history and politics. depending on where your cards lie for your organization, based on these things, really should drive you whether a health system model is better for you, or a county model, or a private model, or nesting under the fire department. I talk to Sean all the time, should we combine and just end it, nest under the fire department, and you take on this huge payer liability? It doesn't really make sense right now, not when we found a way to bring in another $1 million. You know, and so that's really where I'll end this. It really is unique to your organization and your place. That's all I got for you. You got any questions?
How did you evaluate that? Like, what, did you just know that reimbursements would be better? So how did you say, well, with this model, my reimbursements could look like this?
I knew that logically, 24%, there's 75% left. Where is that? And there's ambulance deserts popping up all over America. How can I get the 75%? Is it by changing, going to a special district and just taxing the individual? Can I go off to the feds? I really thought about going to Capitol Hill. I know no one. Like I said, I know nothing about nothing. But I was passionate about this because this isn't just my problem, it's everyone's problem. And so I worked out math. I knew it was worth $1 million, that's 75%. And I knew about cost-based reimbursement. But it was always out of reach because of the 35 miles. Until we found for a critical access health system owned ambulance service, it became in reach in 2019. No one knows. We were the first in Colorado, and I think it's only in Louisiana.
Yeah, somewhere,
There are like 2 districts in Louisiana, exact same of us, 2 health systems, like 1,000 square miles, big district down there. And someone was taking a crap on Sunday, reading the Federal Register, and noticed that simple article change. And so they were the first to do it. Yes, sir.
Sure. What would be the difference, like in our area, the hospital does the interfacility transfers? So if we became under this model, what would have to happen to those IFTs? Could they have to go under, like, we're trying for an ambulance authority, would they have to go under that then? Or how is that going to, that?
In your guys' case, this is what's so tricky. You know, it has to be, the program has to be nested under a critical access hospital. That's the way this works. Now, I've talked to Tim for 2 years, and I would love to advocate for a critical access EMS district. It just makes sense because we all have the same problem with very, very low federal reimbursement rates. And, you know, we're never gonna have the economies of scale ever to pay for this. So I wanted to get creative myself, Harold. If I were to create a special district, would I lose this? Can I create, for instance, Pagosa Springs, they're nested under the hospital, but they also have a district. I don't know if it's a hospital district or a ambulance district.
yeah.
Aspen does it. Aspen is nested under the hospital, but they also have an ambulance district. And so they've been able to close that gap. They haven't figured this out yet. They want to. But I think there has to be some type of legal connection to the critical access hospital. And the man to really narrow down on actual tax structure and what you can get away with in CMS. I'm gonna plug it, was Tommy Barnhart. But that's my next iteration. Now that we've closed this gap, can I expand into my tax base and still legally keep my cost-based reimbursement? The hardest part is that leadership structure, which can be everyone's problem, whether you're reporting to a county manager or whoever you're reporting to. That can be anyone's problem, to be perfectly frank. So it is what it is.
Because were you previously run by the county?
We were.
Did the county just?
I mean, we're going back 25 years. It started as a private, went to the county couldn't make money, service was crap, there was no QA/QI, went to the hospital. 25 years ago, somewhere in there, the hospital was successful. It was a volunteer program, so it wasn't costing a lot of money. Then Warren Miller graced us with a massive industry in Colorado with skiing, and then the volunteer system in areas like ours, we had to professionalize. I mean, when I started, we had 20 ambulance on 24/7. And now we have 3 because we're doing these distance IFDs. We have 60,000 people in our community wanting to kill an animal or kill themselves on their side by side every summer. Other questions?
So just for a little more history here, this has been a long process because working with Tommy Barnhart many years ago, we were looking at, in my region, trying to make a group out of Cheyenne, Lincoln, and Kit Carson counties to where they could come under and get cost-based reimbursements for everybody. What I had to find an ambulance service who could be that 35 miles. And we did, and all the services, and there's 2, 3, 7, so there's 10 services in those 3 counties. Only one didn't have an ambulance service within 35 miles in Colorado, and that was in Cheyenne County. However, the ambulance service base in Sharon Springs was 34.8 miles away. Because I measured it. And that shut us down immediately. We had no service used. So working with Tommy, I talked to the CMS folks in Baltimore, locally, the folks in Baltimore, and it's the rules, sorry, we can't change it. The following year, it did come out because it did used to say legally authorized.
Right.
That was a massive change, but they did that time didn't do the or. So, I mean, it's been a long process. I'm so thrilled that you got it. Cheryl Lynn down in Baca County is close to where she could do it. But again, she's got the service a little too close. And so there would have to be that, somebody legally would have to say, only you can take them
I would
out.
have to nest under a critical access hospital.
Well, she is under a critical
Oh,
access
okay.
hospital.
So I mean, speaking to it from the nearby troublemaker perspective, I think we heard a lot in the conversations. Oh my God, what if something big happens? Then you wouldn't be legally authorized to help them take a patient out of that hospital. Yeah, and that's exactly where we wound up. All it says is he has the right to do them or call somebody else to do them on his behalf.
Correct.
So it really changed nothing
Change nothing.
operationally. We still exchange mutual aid on a very regular basis because we're the only 2 services within quite some miles.
It's true, actually, in like 3 pages later now, Federal Register gives scenarios where does this mean it would limit your local other ambulance group helping you? And it says, nope, not through mutual aid. We know that's gonna happen. That's expected. And so they even call out that this doesn't just shaft you.
To Harold and Christina and Kimberly's question, we have been looking at that, you guys have been looking at that, we presented that during the visit. So this is something we could do, but there would have to be pretty much a consolidation under the hospital. And at that time, that was not a viable option.
For it to be financially gainful.
Yes.
Yeah, because I mean, my cost per mix is 42% CMS. That's hot. So I have $1 million in there. If you're only 17%, if I was 17%, I might be going after, I don't know, say $100,000. It might still be worth it, but there's certainly less incentive, so that volume has to be just right. I bet you guys are the same. I bet your CMS Medicaid patients.
Yeah.
You might even be worse than me, because I have some of that ski resort, commercial pay, in my area, so I bet you have a higher payer mix.
We have Lyman Correctional Facility, which has all sorts of.
Hey.
Is it no questions online? Okay, no, but-
Well, thank you. I love my employer, in case word gets out.